Hello, friends. Welcome to Monday night Cold War Prepper. Gosh, I hope we have a couple new visitors here tonight, and we'll see what happens. I'll tell you the story real quick while we're waiting for other people to come on, and while I type in number 10 here, uh, I hit the go live button, and it erased what I was typing. So let me dysentery. Okay, and the poops. What's that called? H-R-H-E-A, two R's. Yeah, there we go. Oh, we'll just call it the poops. I can't spell it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. Where I hope we have a couple. So I got contacted a long time ago. I used to sell Pampered Chef products, best cooking products on the market. So my sponsor contacted me on Facebook and wanted to know what I'm doing now. I think he wants to recruit me to work for him again. But anyhow, so he might be here this evening. Then Prepping by Faith is back. Oh gosh, she took a small break, get away from it. Evidently, she's had some problems with some really bad people making comments. I've had the same. We have one of the same admirers, let's call it, and so she had to take a break from all the negative comments that there are out there. I just wish some of these people would try to do something rather than critique everybody else. That would be so great. And then I was out in the backyard. Of course, the next door neighbor has a dog. We have a dog. They kind of bark at each other on the fence, and I got mine in. And we started talking. She says, "I really like your rain catchment system." We started talking. She says, "Yeah, my husband was into prepping, and we were doing all this stuff, and the solar system and everything else in preparation for that before he passed." So we got into a nice conversation. We talked for about an hour. I hope she joins us tonight. So it's really neat how things work out kind of in the long run. So anyhow, this is a request by you as a result of last Tuesday's discussion in our nonfiction book club. Oh yeah, and there's also a Facebook group called the Apocalyptic Book Club. So I invited them to come tonight as well. Anyhow, this is a follow-up to A. American and Alan Kay's book, Survival and where is it? It was right here. Doggone it. I get so much stuff here and I lose. Oh, there it is. Decline and Decay. That's the name of the book. This is the book. So Decline and Decay. And we were talking about a chapter on first aid. And somebody said, we didn't really do it justice Tuesday evening. So let's kind of go into a little bit more in depth. And I said, well, I'd like to kind of focus it around three specific questions. So number one, what are the best books for you to have in your library for a post-apocalyptic library? I know what I have. So I did an AI search with ChatGPT and said, what are the best books to have in a post-apocalyptic library? And it came back with, thank God, I have all 5 of the books that they recommend. So I'm going to give you the 5 that ChatGPT recommends. I'm also going to give you some other ones that I have in addition to those. Question number 2 is, what's the best IFAK? And I don't want to mislead you there. We're going to have a little bit of a separate discussion around IFAKs, but we'll come back to what is the best IFAK. And then question number 3 is, where can I go on YouTube to get fantastic medical training or first aid training? And so those are the 3 questions we're going to be answering this evening. Little Lone Prepper, welcome. Dave Simmons, welcome. Sheila Dean, welcome. Little Lone Prepper, good to see you. And of course, Scott Hummer, thank you, sir. Scott's a brand new moderator with us, so please, give him your special attention because he volunteered. So, every once in a while, I ask a question, hey, can I get some help? And he does it. So let me just kind of give you the rules of the channel. Number 1, you can attack me. I don't care. But please don't attack my subscribers, okay? I prefer to stay away from religion unless I bring it up and we want to talk specifically about religion. There may be a time when I say tonight we're going to talk about religion or tonight we're going to talk about politics. Those 2 things I like to keep off the channel unless I say we're specifically going to talk about them. I want to focus on what are the solutions. What are the things that we have garnered over the course of my time in the prepper journey? And what are some of the solutions you need now to survive whatever's coming? And it's looking worse and worse every day. Hi, Lisa B. So number 3, there are certain code words or keywords that the algorithm will report me and kick me off if we use them too much, so, they don't like us talking about the cough, that happened in 2020, 2021, 2021. They don't like us talking about the thing that you do here. They think that's a disinformation campaign, that people say it's no good. They don't like us talking about gruesome things such as death, and things like that, or the self-inflicted death and things like that. They don't like us talking about that. They don't like us talking about controversial topics that are in the news right now. So, if you do that, then one of my moderators is going to ask you to please stop. And if you continue, then they're going to put you in timeout. If you come back from your timeout and you continue to do it, then we're just going to ban you from the channel. Okay. I don't want to have my channel taken down because of your petty things about freedom of speech. I would like to be able to say whatever I want to say as well. However, right now, let's use the channel that we have. Let's use the platform that we have, follow their rules, and get you what you need to know in order to survive. So that's kind of where we are. So thank you all so much for your patience and endurance, and thank you for being here. So let's get into this discussion. So first, I asked ChatGPT, and I'm going to put links to all these in the show notes. So after the show is over, give me about an hour, I'm going to say, and I'll have links to all these. Now, I want to show you a couple of them, and I'm going to recommend you do what I did. Don't buy new ones, okay? If you want to buy a new one on Amazon and give me 2% commission on that, or referral fee, fine, do that. If you don't want to, you can get more books if you go to someplace like Half Price Books, which is where I go. And you can get a used one. You can get one that's not a current edition. You're going to save a lot of money, and you're going to have some good information in your library. I would much rather you have 2 books for the price of 1 in your library rather than me make 20 cents off of the sale of you getting a brand new one, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so I prefer you go to a used bookstore, look for the books rather than going. So Stray Kittens, controversial topics, pretty much, things like I'm not a guy anymore, and things like that everybody's talking about, where people are in contention. The rights of a mother or a non-mother, because it's really not a human being, and those kinds of things. So if it's controversial in the news, if 2 neighbors can get into an argument over it, and it's politically motivated, those are considered controversial topics. And unfortunately, I can't tell you what they are. I can't give you a list of them, because if I did, then it'd kick me off the channel. But anyhow, I think common sense can kind of prevail there. Let me see. Coyote Hill, welcome. You sound like a new one. Thank you for being here. So here's what ChatGPT says. The 5 books it recommends that you have in your library. Number 1, The Survival Medicine Handbook, a guide for when help is not on the way, by Dr. Joseph Alton and his wife, Amy Alton, RN. Actually, she is an ARNP, a registered nurse practitioner. So this is the one they're talking about, the Survival Medicine Handbook. This is the number 1 choice by ChatGPT. And gosh, let me tell you, it's got a lot of phenomenally fantastic information in it. That is probably if I could only have one, I agree with ChatGPT, that would be the one. Number 2, I kind of have to dig down here a little bit because it's a little bit of a, and the pages are yellowed. This is one of my first prepper first aid books that I ever bought, believe it or not, other than the Boy Scout Handbook, which is another fantastic one. It's got a whole bunch of notes in here from an old yellow steno pad. Starflight Zone, Zero Dawn, Runaway. It looks like it's a list of books that I wanted to buy. But this is the 1971 edition of Emergency War Surgery. So this is the number 2 choice by ChatGPT. Northern Girl Hobbies, welcome. Good to see you. Number 3 book, and I kind of really agree with this one as well. Dr. Forgey's Wilderness Medicine. Now, I've got a couple things here I really like that I have tabbed. One of them is it shows how to identify Lee when he's laying on the grass, or how to identify just by looking at the feet whether somebody's hip is broken or not. Another one it's got in here that I really, really like are what are the most common diseases in North America, and different things about infectious diseases. And then the last one, Appendix A, is the Wilderness Expedition Medical Kit. So what it recommends you have in your first aid and medical facility to treat those diseases that it talks about in here. So that's what ChatGPT says is book number 3. Number 4, it says Where There Is No Doctor, and I agree. The book is originally written for people, missionaries who were going to Africa primarily on missionary studies. And so they wrote this book on how they can help locals with certain medical issues. And this is primarily focused on medicine, less so than on first aid. So these are going to be, it's got one chapter in here on how to pull an infected tooth, how to tell whether it's a, what they call impacted wisdom tooth or an impacted tooth or an abscess. Thank you, Helen. An abscess tooth. So it's got great information on how to do all kinds of things, identify diseases, how to treat them, and some of them with local herbs and tinctures and things like that. But it's also got some simple surgical procedures that you can do with a little bit of knowledge. Phenomenal book. Strongly recommended. I heartily agree with ChatGPT there. Now, number 5 is another one of those ones that I really like as well, and that's the American College of Emergency Physicians First Aid Manual. So, this is written by some ER doctors on what you need to know around first aid. So those are the 5 that ChatGPT strongly recommends. Hello, Ontario Prepper and Astatine 85. I think that's Astatine, right? Or is it Astatine? But it appears it might be Astatine. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here. So then some of the others, they also wrote, along with Where There Is No Doctor, there's a companion, Where There Is No Dentist. And so this has some things on dental procedures in it as well, more detailed about how to pull a tooth than there is where There's No Doctor. There's 2 phenomenal books that Dr. Alton has written along with his wife, Amy. And so these really were big sellers in 2020, 2021, and I strongly recommend them. The first one is Alton's Pandemic Preparedness Guide. So it's got an entire chapter in there on how to prepare a sick room or a quarantine room. So what are all the things you're going to need? For example, sheets of plastic to put under the patients in case bodily fluids come out and get all over the sheeting and everything else. A barf bucket, barf bags, different things, wipes, a bedpan, things like that. And, things that you're going to need to take care of a sick person while they're going through some sort of a pandemic. It also goes into the PPE or personal protective equipment that you as a caregiver should be wearing when you go in to take care of the person so that you don't catch whatever disease it is. Dr. Alton put out a video yesterday or the day before about Marburg virus that currently is in Africa. I think it's in 3 or 4 countries now in Africa, has an extremely high fatality rate in the 90th percentile. And but the good news is that it's only spread through bodily fluids. So typically when they talk about the exchange of bodily fluids, they're talking about an STD. But there can be other bodily fluids as well, blood, sputum, and things like that, urine, fecal matter, all those kinds of things. But typically, when they say that it's going to be transmitted through bodily fluids, 90% of the time, it's a code word for an STD, a sexually transmitted disease. Having puppies will get you ready too. Yeah, I've got 3 Chihuahuas. Tell me about it. And we go through probably, I can't get them potty trained. I'll take one outside. They'll go to the bathroom, come inside, and then they'll go straight over to one of our pads we have on the floor, and do it and continue on the pad. It's like they have to finish there. But which reminds me, get plenty of puppy training pads. Those are fantastic bed pads to have underneath somebody when they're sick in bed, so that if they have an accident, whether it be urine or fecal matter, that contains it fairly well. So doggy puppy training pads make fantastic bed pads for your sick room, and they're a lot cheaper. Okay, what else? Oh, yes. And so Dr. Alton also put out one, Alton's Antibiotics and Infectious Disease. I strongly recommend you get this. Now, when you get this, you please seriously consider getting one of these, the Jace case. And there will be a link on how you can get it down below with a $10 discount if you use Cold War Prepper. I think it's called CWP 10, but you can get a $10 discount. Get your antibiotics. There's going to be there is already a critical shortage of antibiotics. Do that. Protect yourself, protect your family. I understand that they're a little bit on the expensive side, and you may not be able to afford a separate one for each member of your family, but at least get one. And for example, they worked with me very well when I talked to the doctor on the phone. I told them I'm allergic to azithromycin, which is one of the antibiotics that they put in there. So they substituted another antibiotic for azithromycin. Last time I took azithromycin, which is commonly called the Z-Pak, I was leaving from here to go up to First Friday in Canton, Texas, which is east of Dallas. Big, what do they call them, flea market. And so I took the pill here. By the time I got to Waco, my tongue was starting to swell. By the time I got to Dallas, the loop around Dallas, my tongue was really swollen. By the time I got to Canton, it was so swollen I couldn't stick it out of my mouth to lick my teeth or my lips. And so I had to go in the emergency room. And I spent about, probably 12, 14 hours on a Benadryl drip IV, trying to get, the azithromycin out of me. So they work with you on that. That's really fantastic. And make sure you get this copy of this book so you make sure you're giving the right thing for the right reason. And this gives you some ideas on how to do it without blood tests and all the other things or microscopic tests and everything else that the physician would normally have available to them. Now, remember, we only want to use these techniques in a post-apocalyptic environment where there is no physician available. If it is pre-apocalyptic and a physician is available, healthcare is available, a hospital is available, an emergency room is available, seek those out. Do not self-medicate. Don't even practice. Get ready for it. Pick up all the knowledge you can and use it afterwards. But while a doctor is here, make sure you get a doctor's advice on everything you do medically. So there's a couple others I have in my library. I picked this up at the Half Price Books. This is the 23rd edition. I believe that the 25th edition is out currently. Look what I paid for it. I mean, crying out loud. This is a $30 book for $5.50. Another good one is the Merck Manual on Medical Information for the Home Edition. And this is all kinds of information on diseases, on injuries, on birthing, on pediatric issues, on skin issues, and how to treat those. And look at this, $5.99 at the Half Price Bookstore. This is a $60 book. So, get them cheap. Get those books at your local discount bookstores or online. I believe there's one I forget. Somebody told me, one of my followers told me that there was a bookstore online, a discounted bookstore, and you can get good books there as well. Now, one last thing to remember is that the Food and Drug Administration has put out, or is it the CDC, Centers for Drug Control, or FDA? I don't know. Government put out an edict that as of sometime in June, you will not be able to get fish medicine without a prescription from a veterinarian. So I guess you're going to have to take your tank of fish into the veterinarian and have him look at them and prescribe penicillin or any of the other antibiotics that would typically be acquired for use for your fish in the tank. But once that time, I'm not sure if it's June 1st or June 15th, but once that time comes up, then you're going to have to get a prescription in order to treat your fish of any diseases that they might have. So Northern Girl Hobbies is talking about. Let me put that up here. That one of her friends' husbands needed, and they're having problems with getting antibiotics in Canada. We're having problems with antibiotics here in the U.S. as well. That's going to be, I think the problem is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Scott says I agree. So once you have to go to get a vet involved and get a prescription, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Let me see. Somebody's laughing at a tardy slip. Astatine. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was doing this a long time before YouTube. And so for example, my Facebook page has both. Yeah. Oh, well, all I can say is, come on by. Let's see what happens. If you're invited, then nothing will happen. If you're not invited, then, there are other things that are going to happen. Let me see what's going on here. Pat Butler, welcome. Always good to see you. Dragon Slayer, good to see you as well. Thank you for being here. And let me see who else. Coyote Hill has a big comment here. I have a vet and a gastroenterologist in my group. That's great. I need my doctor every 3 years. I have to go in and have my throat, my esophagus roto-rooted. Like right now, a vitamin C pill, I choke on it. My esophagus shrinks, and so every 3 years I have to go in and they roto-rooter it, and they put this device in with a balloon, a catheter, and blow it up and expand my throat so that I can swallow things. And so I need a good GI because I just made my appointment and said I can't swallow. And the earliest that my gastroenterologist can see me is October. So it's great to have a physician in your group. I would love to have my family practitioner, but he got recruited by a group of special forces guys here in the area before I could get to him. I think my family practitioner is probably the best one here in the area. Okay, so let's talk about number 2, the question of which is the best IFAK. So I'm not sure that let's define terms because IFAK is an individual first aid kit. And so I asked ChatGPT and it came across with some of, they're all $85 to $120. So let me ask another question or pose another theory. What I would like to see you do is maybe you can build your own far cheaper than getting one of these $85 to $120 IFAKs that are available on Amazon or that even ChatGPT is going to recommend. So currently, except for morphine, you can't get the morphine, in a non-combat area. But the current U.S. Army IFAK, individual first aid kit, consists of 2 ABD dressings, and these are ABD stands for abdominal. So these are dressings that you're going to put over exposed intestines, which is quite common occurrence in a combat zone. Um, Now, the nice thing about any sterile gauze or bandage or anything else that you have is if you have a sucking chest wound, the inside of the package. So this is an Israeli 4-inch bandage. So the inside of this is sterile. So when I open this, I can then rip it all the way open. And now I have a non-porous item that I can then place over the lung so that I can cover a sucking chest wound. Now remember, when you cover a sucking chest wound, you only want to tape 3 sides. You don't want to tape all 4. You have to have some area where the blood and other effluents can kind of get out. But you do want to tape down 3 sides. So you can use the insides of any sterile package to help you with a sucking chest wound. Let me see. That's where I would check a little Lone Prepper. So I really don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat will be able to help you. I've been kind of relying on Jace. And then up until the time I started my allergy shots, I was, because of allergies, I was having an upper respiratory infection almost every 3 months. So I have enough medications, extra medications for an upper respiratory infection to last me probably through 1 or 2 more bouts. It's I think that that's going to be a problem. I don't know. I hope somebody here can help you. Okay, let me see here. Wow, am I behind on the comments? Let's take a look at. She says Walmart, Petrix, and Chewy's. Camper Van Clark, thank you for being here. Mitch J, thank you for being here. So Mitch says that there's only a few antibiotics that are non-prescription at the pet stores. Okay. Hey, Roaming Prepper. Now, Roaming Prepper is going to be on here with me on the 19th. Remember, this is the last Monday night for 8 weeks. Helen and I have enrolled in a 8-week study at the church, and it's going to be talking about the 7 deadly sins and the 7 great, for what they call them, blessings or something like that. But we're going to be studying how to get less sin and more blessing in our life for 8 weeks at the church, and that's going to be from 7 to 9. So that's during the time when we have the Monday night discussion. So starting next week, it won't be Monday, it'll be Wednesday. And we're kicking off with the Roaming Prepper will be here with me. And we're going to be talking about 5th generation warfare. So all these things that I, in the past, that I have not been able to put my fingers on. And I say, as an intelligence analyst, I like to be able to connect the dots. Well, 5th generation warfare says the whole purpose behind 5th generation warfare is your inability to connect the dots, because they're all so incongruent that it becomes non-apparent that they're actually taking out your infrastructure. So next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, that's what Roaming Prepper and I will be talking about. If anybody else here has read the 2 Chinese colonels who put their book out 2019, what's the name of it? It's got a red cover. Unconventional warfare. That's where we actually get into 5th. We're going to talk about the Chinese Communist perception of how they want to conduct unconventional warfare or 5th generation warfare. So join us a week from Wednesday, and that's what Roaming Prepper and I'll be discussing here on the channel. So let me see here. Anybody else? Oh gosh, there's so many. Thank you all for being here. Golly. Refuge Medical is, yes, it is one of the best first aid kits available. It's not one of the ones that was recommended by ChatGPT. So I guess what we need to do is, before we actually go into first aid kits, we need to separate a couple things. Number one, an individual first aid kit. Now, typically 90% of the time that we talk about an individual first aid kit, we're talking about an individual trauma kit. So that's what we have in the Army. That's one that has 2 abdominal dressings, one pair of EMT shears. They look like, if I can get mine out, I can't get mine out. A lot of good does me there, right? But anyhow, pair of EMT shears, then a nasal pharyngeal airway, compressed gauze. Now, the reason you have a nasal pharyngeal airway in a combat zone is when a person passes out, if they're on their back, their tongue can flop back and cover their esophagus and their trachea so that they can't breathe. So you want to put in and usually it's going to go on the right-hand side. And it comes with a little tube of water-based lubricant. You lubricate it and insert it. You want it to go back to about where the jaw meets the ear, but you'll have the flat part here. What you're doing is you're creating an artificial airway, pushing that tongue out of the way so that they can breathe while they're unconscious. That's the sole purpose behind an NPA. You're going to have a package of compressed gauze with tape. You're going to have a pair of nitrile gloves, a SWAT-T, which is a tourniquet, and then you're going to have a 4-inch Israeli compressed bandage. That's what this is. So I carry 2. I carry one on my IFAK, and then I just have one here in the house. So when we talk about an IFAK, what we're talking about individual trauma, usually associated with being in a combat zone where you're going to get shot, blown up, or anything like that. So notice everything here is focused on stopping a blood flow through the SWAT, through the compression gauze of the Israeli bandage, or removing clothing so you can get to the wound. You're talking about, you've got the compressed gauze. And what we do is we do what's called wound packing. So if you have a big gash, you can actually take that gauze and start stuffing it inside the wound to cause it to stop bleeding. Sometimes I've heard some of them now also have C-locks. Don't do it unless you absolutely need it. That's one of the only thing I've had more painful than C-locks is what's the name of that shot? They gave me an antibiotic shot that was unbelievable. It was so painful and I passed out. But anyhow, that's so the IFAK is primarily for injuries in a combat zone. Now let's talk about other things, common first aid. So this is in my truck first aid kit, okay? And inside here is my tourniquet. So you can get to it quickly. And I leave it, that's not my tourniquet. That's my other 4-inch gauze, Israeli gauze. There's the tourniquet. And it automatically, I have the stage so that all you have to do is pull on it and it automatically starts unwinding. But this is my truck first aid kit. So your truck first aid kit or your vehicle first aid kit is going to be a little bit more extensive because you're talking about automobile accident. And then your home first aid kit is going to be different. So for your home first aid kit, okay, I'm going to leave chat for a little bit. So I will come back and pick up on you. But so here's the components for the Army IFAK, the 2 ABDs, the shears, the NPA, nasal pharyngeal airway, the compressed gauze, tape, gloves, a SWAT, the 4-inch Israeli tourniquet. So what I did was I said, okay, if I'm going to create a first aid kit for my home for a post-apocalyptic thing, then probably, we're going to be cooking like you would be if you were camping. We're going to be cutting wood. We're going to be doing all kinds of things outdoors. So we're basically going to be camping from our home. So I did an investigation on what are the 10 most common injuries or illnesses as a result of camping, or what are the 10 most common camping accidents. Number 1 is burns. So make sure you have some burn gel or burn ointment or a burn treatment kits. So that's the most common thing. Just imagine all these people who have never cooked on fire before, who never cooked on coal, who are going to be trying to get the flame to go higher by squirting more lighter fluid on it and all those kinds of things. You're going to need some burn treatments in your home first aid kit. Number 2, cuts, scrapes, and punctures, which is what the IFAK is basically for, but they may not be that severe. You might just want to have a whole bunch of Band-Aids. some Carflex tape, the self-winding tape like this. Matter of fact, you're going to need this, but I'll get it to you here in a minute. So bandages, Band-Aids, things for boo-boo kits, basically. Number 3 is sunburn. So, a lot of people don't wear wide brimmed hats and they don't have sun ointment on them. So make sure you, in preparation for SHTF, make sure you have a wide brimmed hat. Keep your skin covered at all times, long sleeve shirts when you're out working, and make sure you have some sunscreen. Number 4 is dehydration. And we're going to have a problem with that because of the lack of good water. So make sure you have a good water purification system, some clean potable water. You might also want to include getting some things like IV what's that one called? There are different electrolyte additives. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went to Costco, and one of them is on sale right now. And she asked if we needed it, and I said, well, it'd be nice. And we didn't for some reason, so we're going to go back while it's still on sale and pick up another one. But these are the drip drops and the IV, I think it's called, or something like that. Number 5 is heat stroke. Don't overdo it. Make sure you stay well hydrated and away from, don't over exert yourself, especially on hot days. Number 6 are insect stings. So study up on ticks, which is the most common of the insect stings. How to remove stingers from wasps and bees and things like that. What you can do as far as topically to alleviate some of those pains. Number 7 is animal bites, very close to insect bites. Number 8 are sprains, strains, and breaks. And that's where it comes in nice to have a splint. Okay, there's what it's called. Coflex tape. So SAM splint is great for splinting up any kind of, and you can get them in various sizes. These you can use for a leg. You can also double them up and use them for an arm. They make a great elbow sling. I wouldn't use them for a finger, but you can even here use it for your hand. So you can get some splinting material in case you have any sprains, breaks, or strains. Number 9 is a second weather-related item, so it's not going to occur at the same time, hopefully, heat stroke and frostbite. But the 9th most common camping injury is frostbite. And then, of course, the 10th one is an illness, actually, and that's sanitary issues. So you're out in the field, you don't have a restroom, you don't have running water, you go to the bathroom, you come back, and maybe you begin to drink a cup of coffee or you get a drink out of your canteen or whatever, you have dirty hands, and somehow or other your hands infect what you're eating or drinking, and that's going to give you dysentery, that's going to give you diarrhea, and so those become major issues. Those can dehydrate you, which takes us back to number 4. So your home first aid kit needs to take those items into consideration. Okay, let's see where we are. Ground wasps are nasty. I just saw a guy dig up a whole colony of ground wasps. There was a great video. Okay, so it looks like somebody, what was that? Somebody gave a site, the site, I guess, for ordering fish antibiotics online, which is, I think that's it. I'm not going to go all the way up there, but I believe that's it. Then yes, having a separate burn kit is a great idea. Um, so I so here's the key, and Coyote Hill is absolutely correct. Butterfly, I am opposed to anything that's going to add additional puncture wounds into trying to close a wound. So I am opposed to non-professionals, non-physicians trying to close a wound with either a suture kit or a staple kit. Yeah, I know they're easy. Number 1, you're adding additional pain to the patient. Number 2, you have the opportunity for infection like you would not believe. You're adding 2 extra puncture wounds per stitch or per staple. You're tripling the chances of an infection. I agree. Do what you can to irrigate the wound to make sure you get all the debris out of it to get as much of the infection opportunity away from it, then close it with butterfly stitches. I also like Ziploc stitches, and that's a brand new thing. But yes, you can use super glue to hold down the butterfly stitches. So what happens is, remember, this is your largest organ in your body is your skin. And so your skin is constantly shedding the outer layer and growing a new layer underneath. So you're going to have flaky skin all the time. Your skin comes off. And that's what happens with that super glue is about the time that your wound heals, that outer layer of skin is about ready to go anyway. So it's going to release that super glue. So you don't have to worry about ripping your skin when you pull it off. It'll come off naturally over time. So don't try to rip it off and give yourself additional wounds. Uh, okay. Okay. Hi. Oh, welcome, Rome. And let me see. Gatorade. Yes, please. Gatorade, Powerade, um, anything like that, electrolytes, liquid IV is what that one's called. I was thinking of. The one that I have is Drip Drop. And then I also have one from the military that I kind of acquired. Um, so yes, you can use chlorine to get rid of a lot of things, but not everything. What I typically do and what I recommend is I have one of those cones, camping cones with #2 filters for coffee. And so I set that on top of so I have a dirty bottle and it's called dirty. Okay. And I'll have dirty written on it in a magic marker or um, what are these things called? Oh gosh, and I can't even find it now. There it is. Um, Sharpie. Okay. So I have Sharpies and I'll write on the bottle, I'll say dirty or clean water. Now then, that dirty water, what I'll do is I'll put that cone with the filter over another dirty bottle, okay? So I'm gonna pour my water first through the cone filter into another dirty bottle. It's not clean yet. Once I've done that, I can treat it with Aquapure, I can treat it with chlorine, I can treat it with unscented bleach. There are a lot of things you can clean it with. Then you want to take that a second time, and I'm probably going to put it through another filtration system, the Berkey, Alexa Pure, the Survivor Filter Pro, Sawyer Drip, or something like that. Then it will go into a clean water bottle. So you want to make sure that you only have pure, clean water. Now, here's a hint. When you put it through those filtration systems, even if you try to steam it and distill the water, you are getting rid of all the inherent minerals that are valuable, minerals and vitamins that it has acquired that are vital for your body. You're still going to need some sort of electrolyte replacement. Just for that purpose right there is the fact that when you purify your water, you're taking all the electrolytes out of it. So you need to add some good ones back in. So make sure you have an ample supply, Gatorade, Powerade, liquid IV, drip drop, or any of those other electrolyte powders that you can add to your drinks. Well, there could be kinetic incidents, and it just depends on what at that level, what we're talking about. I wasn't that concerned about it in the past. I think that the opportunity for kinetic warfare in the future is increasing as the Chinese are making deals with Venezuela, Nicaragua, now Panama, and they are really approaching the Mexican government real strong as they get port facilities and airport facilities closer and closer to the United States, to the continental United States, then the opportunity for us to have a kinetic war here increase. Whereas before, as an intelligence analyst, I knew that they did not have either the shipborne capabilities nor the airborne capabilities to get more than one division across the Pacific Ocean, assuming 100% of their assets that left arrived and none of them got taken out by any of our anti-aircraft or anti-ship capabilities. So that would be one division attacking 7, not good odds. So I didn't think the chance of kinetic warfare here in the United States was good at all. Now I am seeing a growing concern because of their alliances with some of our Central and South American friends. So that is beginning to become a concern for me. Yeah, Gordon Chang was on Fox. There's also a video of that here on YouTube. I would recommend you look it up. Gosh, he is smart and he knows what he's talking about. Um, yeah, I have Korea toes too, Coyote. Um, Actually, I think I was colder in Germany, but I have Korea toes. Ticks are terrible. Make sure you know how to get rid of those. Same thing with brown recluses. Those, by the way, are very well discussed in this book in Wilderness Medicine. And they're also very well discussed in Where There Is No Doctor because of all the insects in Africa. Okay, so let's get down to the IFAKs that ChatGPT recommends. Number one, the MOLLE Medical Pouch by Lightning X Products. Number two, the Individual First Aid Kit, the IFAK, by MyMedic. Number three, the Trauma Kit by Adventure Medical Kits. And then number four, no, that's it. It just gave me those three. So the MOLLE Medical Pouch by Lightning X Products, Individual First Aid Kit by MyMedic, Trauma Kit by Adventure Medical Kits. I really like Refuge Medical, which is Bear Independent. He has some very good products in his IFAKs and his family first aid kits. I also like Skinny Medic. I think he has some fantastic items in his. The way I'm judging when I look at an IFAK is I want it to be as close to what the military has as possible. And I was really disappointed in my Echo Sigma IFAK only because I really wanted this Israeli 4-inch compression bandage. So I ordered a dozen of them, and that cost me a week's salary on Amazon. And so I've got a dozen of those around the house and everywhere else. Okay, and then the last 10 minutes, let's talk about the best websites to get some training. Catch up here on the chat, and then tap water isn't great. Actually, here's a secret, Northern Girl Hobbies. My daughter in her biology class, they were next to a major waterway here in the greater Austin metropolitan area. They took a sample of the tap water, and they took a sample of the creek. And actually, the water in the creek, in the flowing creek, was better than the tap water that they got inside the schools, according to the chemical and biological tests they did when she was in high school. So Suspicious Observer is the channel I recommend for that. And he was warning that it appears that we're going to have Earth-facing CMEs, and they could be X-class for the next couple of days. And so, yes, we have had several flares, M-class flares over the last couple of days. So I don't know how many of you know my habit, but every morning the first thing I do is I check windy.com to see what the prevailing wind directions are so that I know if they nuke Houston or San Antonio or Dallas, if I need to worry, or if they nuke Austin, do I need to worry? And where is that fallout pattern going to be based upon the winds? I also check Suspicious Observer and see what the CME is and those kinds of things. And then after that, I go to Mary Greeley News, and she does a really good job about reporting on Yellowstone and a lot of other events here in the side of the United States. And then I'll check on the latest information from Dutch Sense, and DUTCHSINSE, if I'm not mistaken. But he does phenomenal reporting on earthquakes, worldwide earthquakes, and he shows you the pattern and how it impacts the tectonic plates. And he even has a very high accuracy rate of predicting plus or minus 1 magnitude and plus or minus 50 miles where the next series of quakes are going to be. So Dutch Sense is a fantastic channel if you want to keep up on earthquake things that are going on. Okay, so let me catch up down here, and then I wasn't able to do much in the Defense Department. I guess my best option will be to try to find a hiding place with a hunker down for a while. Yes. I was reading. Oh, I know what it was. My newest edition. So this comes out every 6 months. Okay, the Journal for Civil Defense. If you're a member of TACDA, that's the American Civil Defense Association, then this is our biannual, semi-annual news magazine. And so there was something in here that just caught my eye. I'll read it to you real quick. Together we are stronger. Let your voice be heard. Contact your elected officials. Tell them your emphatic desire to have an official civil defense program for our citizens, no matter the cost. The United States government currently does not have a Department of Civil Defense. It does not educate our children about the effects of nuclear weapons. There are no fallout shelters being maintained for the general public. There are no directives on how to build hardened fallout shelters for people who want to do so. There is no information for how to survive post-nuclear war. Our government has no directed warning system, siren, evacuation plan, or general preparations for a nuclear attack available to the general public. So, those are some of the things that our government currently doesn't have. We kind of abandoned it back in the 70s. We decided that we were going to invest all of our money into missile defense, so that as anti-missile missiles. And so we figured if we destroyed their missiles before they hit us, there was no need for nuclear fallout shelters or for civil defense. And so we never thought that one or two would get through. We also never thought that we would fight two different countries, two different nuclear countries at the same time. And so that's where we are. And so right now we don't have any civil defense. And the only thing there is this association, which I'm a member of. There's a whole bunch of civilians who are dedicated to civil defense. Okay. Okay, Dragon Slayer, here's a piece of trivia for you. If you ever get a bottle of Ozarka, I don't know how it is outside of Texas, but if you get a bottle of Ozarka drinking water here in Texas, and you look at it, it says source, Houston Municipal Water Supply. But take a look at the source for your water when you get a bottle of water, make see what it says. Let me see if this one has it on it. No, this one doesn't have the source of the water. But oh well, But it's funny, Ozarka is Houston Municipal Water Supply. Come on, cooperate with me here, down arrow. Activated charcoal, yes, you can run it through that. You're going to get good pure water. The only radioactive filter that I am aware of is made by Seychelles, Seychelles. I'll put a link to it in the show notes after the show tonight. However, I have a problem with that, to be totally honest with you. My problem is in a Seychelles, what it is you've got this open top bottle, a large lip mouth bottle. You screw on the filter and it goes down inside. So as you are drinking the water, that radiation gets concentrated inside the filter. So then you fill up more radioactive water, and as you're filtering it out, all that radioactivity from the fallout, because it's only suspended in the water. The water itself is not radioactive. It's just the suspended particles in it that are radioactive. And so all that gets concentrated inside that bottle. So now you have this radioactive source of fallout hanging around your hips. So that's the objection I have to the Seychelles radioactive filter that they have. But it's the only one on the market that I'm aware of. So if you are concerned about radioactive fallout getting in your drinking water, that is the bottle to have. Okay, let's talk about channels. So of course, number one has got to be Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. They are the experts. They are the prepper physicians that there are out there, as far as I'm concerned. And I think their site is called Doom and Bloom, and then the same thing on Facebook. They also have a Facebook channel. Oh, here we go. Look at this. So Dragon Slayer says, So I guess this is in response to building an IFAK. I think you can build your own cheaper, to be totally honest with you. Hey, Triple G Farms, good to see you. Let me see here. What else? And thank you, Little Lone Prepper, for putting up the Suspicious Observers channel. I appreciate that. And thank you, Hello Tofu. Both of you did great. Okay, so doom and bloom. Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. CPR and first aid training by the National CPR Foundation. So look up National CPR Foundation channel, and they will get you some good stuff. Then it says Wilderness and Rescue Medicine by Solo, SOLO. And so just look up for Wilderness and Rescue Medicine. It says this channel provides training and resources on wilderness and rescue medicine, which can be particularly relevant in post-disaster environments. Another one is Alpine Preparedness. Alpine Preparedness, she is an EMT who works with her husband, who is a helicopter pilot, and they have a channel. They don't get into medicine that much, but they do occasionally. But she's up in the northern parts of Canada. And thank you, Northern Girl Hobbies. Have a great evening. I know it's getting close to 10 o'clock for those of you on the East Coast. I'm sorry. So one of the things we used to do for alcoholics as well is if somebody was had alcohol poisoning, then we would basically inject activated charcoal into their stomach and have that absorb the alcohol, and then we would cause them to aspirate the activated charcoal, and it would bring out the excess alcohol with them, so that we could keep them alive. Can you tell I used to drive ambulances? Wow, what an interesting story. Thank you, Little Lone Prepper. Great that you put that up there. Scott did it. All three of you did it. Well, fantastic. I love you guys. Fantastic. Thank you. The other one is Dr. Arthur T. Bradley. Now, Dr. Bradley is not an MD. He's a PhD. He's the guy who is the EMP expert on for NASA. And I think I want to say his channel is actually called EMP Doctor or something like that. And but anyhow, I subscribe to him. He didn't put out that much that often, but sometimes he does put out some great medical advice. He wrote another survivalist series that takes place in from Georgia up through DC and even into New York. So it's all along the East Coast. So that's another survivalist fiction series. It's about 12, 15 books long. The hero is a U.S. Marshal. The other hero is his father, a criminal. And then the president's daughter actually survives a helicopter crash. And so the president's daughter and the criminal hook up. And she's like a very young teen, maybe late 9, 10 years old. And so the two of them hook up, and then you've got this thing going on. It's a great series, so I strongly recommend it. But I also strongly recommend the Stonemont series and the Survivalist series by that we're currently reading. We're going to do book 6 the last Thursday of this month, and that's by A. American. And he is the one who also wrote the nonfiction book that we're doing tomorrow night, A. American and Alec. So tomorrow night we'll be discussing bartering and bickering, and then consumables. So those are the 2 chapters we'll be doing tomorrow night. Okay, so those channels are CPR and First Aid Training by National CPR Foundation, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Solo's Wilderness and Rescue Medicine, and Dr. Arthur T. Bradley's Prepper Med 101. Now then, every once in a while, Refuge Medical will put out a good video on something first aid related. So will Skinny Medic, and then so will My Medic. So you can also check those channels. So let me see if there's any questions. And if they're not, I think we can probably wrap it up. I think I'll give you the list of the books once again um, for everybody in case you're looking for your library. And I'll put all these in the show notes too. So if you're taking notes, let me catch up. Okay, so I think I'm down. EMP Doctor 1. There we go. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so, and these are not in order. These are just stacked. Okay, as I went through them, I stacked them over here. So these are not necessarily in order. Wilderness Survival, Beyond First Aid by Dr. Forgy. Okay. U.S. Army's Emergency War Surgery. This one is the original volume 1 or first edition by Desert Publications. When I got my re-enlistment bonus in 1972, that's what I spent on it at a bookstore in Monterey, California, down on Cannery Row. I can still remember that. The number 1 book that I want you to get is Dr. Alton's and Nurse Alton's The Survival Medicine Handbook. This is the comprehensive guide. Make sure you get a copy of the pill book so you know what you're going to be using your different pills for. It also has color pictures so that if you have a pill at the house and you're not sure what it is, you can go through the guide with all the markings on the pill and identify exactly what it is and whether or not you should be taking it. Another fantastic one, especially with Marburg coming out, and thank you, Triple G, for the reference for that. I think that was Dr. Alton that I put out about the Marburg. This is Alton's Antibiotics and Infectious Disease. This was very, very handy during the lockdown in 2020. Another good one that you need to get now before Marburg hits, or another version of 2020, Alton's Preparedness, Pandemic Preparedness Guide. So these 3 are all by the same author, these 3 books. That's what I call a family of books. And that would be my recommendation for your bare minimum. The American College of Emergency Physicians First Aid Manual is a fantastic book. Then we have 2 books, and I believe I'm going to put a link out at some point. I'll put it in the show notes here. I have a link where you can get these books online, download a PDF form for free, so you don't have to buy these 2. And I'll put that down in the show notes. But this is Where There Is No Doctor, and then the companion to that is Where There Is No Dentist. The final book I'm going to recommend for well, actually, there's 2. One of them I can't afford to get, and that's Gray's Anatomy, so you can understand bones, structures, muscles, tissues, tendons, and everything else. And the other one, of course, is the Merck Manual. Now, there's 2 editions of this. There's a physician's edition that's about $70. There's the Merck Manual Home Edition, which is only about $30. So just depends on which one you want. They're both about the same size. The other one just costs more, I guess, because I figure physicians are going to buy it and they got more money. So that's kind of where we are as far as the books that were recommended for first aid. Some of the things I'm going to recommend you add to your first aid kit. Make sure you get some sterile wash, some wound wash. I like the pump bottle because I can control the amount of pressure when I'm irrigating a wound. Make sure you get plenty of 4-inch Israeli compression bandages. Make sure you get some ABD or abdominal wound dressings. Check into getting a SAM splint or some sort of splinting material for breaks and for sprains and strains and things like that, where you need to temporarily give some support to the bone structure. So those are kind of some of the things I would recommend. Oh, one more. And make sure, I did get that. I did get the pill book. And so that's pretty much it. Let me see if there's any last minute questions. All right. I hope this was worth your hour this evening. Thank you so much for being with me. And thank you so much for your questions, because that generates the great discussions. Now, don't forget, a week from Wednesday, we're going to be talking about 5th generation warfare, and all these suspicious activities that, once I read what the Chinese intend to do, now it makes sense. And so Pete from the Roaming Prepper will be here. I hope to have Texas Redleg here as well. If any of you have any knowledge or expertise on either fourth generation or fifth generation warfare, please send me an email. Let me know. I would love to have you in on the discussion so we can get as much good information out to the people as possible. Yes, broad spectrum sunscreen is fantastic. I would always, see if you can't have that available for you. Um, oh, look at this. Holly has a daughter who's a surgical tech. And so she has all great books. That's fantastic. So if there's any that you recommend that we should have, do me a favor, Holly. After this comes out, make sure you add those additional books down below in the comments, and so that our friends can see what kind of good books are available that would be of use to them in the same situation. Okay, gosh, let me see. Thank you, Holly. I love having you all here, and thank you all so much for, it's your questions that generate the responses. So thank you so much for your participation and asking such great questions. Um, let me see here. Lisa Marie, thank you for being here. Fantastic. Okay, so we are right at that 1 hour in the mark. I know there's people on the East Coast that want to get to bed. So let me get into the book of Numbers here. And we'll go with Numbers chapter 6, verses 24, 25, and 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And the Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. The thing is, let's share information. I know there's an awful lot of knowledge out there, and all we have to do is pick your brain as well. Please add that extensive knowledge that you have down in the chat below. If you have some knowledge on a particular subject and you would love to discuss that and have me on, or have you on my channel or me on your channel so that we can get your knowledge out to the same group of people, please send me an email. Let me know. Let's get that arranged. Let's get your expertise out there and get you exposed to people as well. So remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please, please, please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. The world is in a world of pain right now, and people are being very short-tempered, disrespectful, unkind. People are being antagonistic with each other, and I think that we are on the brink of breakage. And to a point to where, when you crack an egg, you can't put it back together. And I think the world's about ready to crack. So it's depending upon us to show that flame of love. It's depending upon us to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because, we were put on this earth because togetherness is the key, and we can get through this as long as we're all together. So thank you for being here, and I wish all of the peace of Easter. Remember, we're coming up towards Pentecost. It's 39 days from today. Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye. Ooh, got all these warnings I got to get rid of to get to the end broadcast key. There we go. Take care, everybody.